It is Sunday, the 21st of May. I'm here with Vero for today is first day of the water load. Carbohydrate levels are coming down. Fibre levels are still the same, still having vegetables, fruits, etc. Over the next couple of days, I'll start pulling that stuff out and also reducing sodium levels. It is 6 o'clock on Sunday and I've had 4 litres. I've got another 4 to go, so let's go.
ดูครับคุณเอกครับช้าๆนะครับจังหวะไหนจังหวะนี้ครับดูครับหมัดขวาครับยัดเข้าไปแล้วนี่ครับล่วงถอยลงไปเลยครับหมัดแรกหมัดแต่อยู่ที่ว่าหมัดการโยกหลบแล้วต่อยสวนนี่อย่างไรส่วนของเราต่อยขวาก็จริงอยู่แต่ว่าหน้าลอยหน้าเปิดส่วนเวโรก้มครับดูครับก้มมุดต่อยแล้วขวาทิ่มแบบนี้ครับเต็มครับขาบิดเลยฮะโอ้โหนี่ว่าหัวปักครับต่างคนต่างต่อยแต่คนที่โดนคือออมสินนะครับ
I am recording this on Tuesday at 10 to 6. Couple of bombshells over the last couple of days. I returned from Kolat to Bangkok, got on a flight, came back to Phuket, and as I was boarding a flight, or as the plane was about to take off, we were on the taxi. I was just about to turn my phone off, got an email come through with a termination letter for my employment at Tiger. So that finishes up next Wednesday, 31st. I spoke to the boss when I landed back in Phuket and he told me that he didn't see any value in my program for the professional fighters. So he's asked me to leave. I asked if he spoke to any of the fighters and he said no, that he doesn't give a fuck about the fighters. He only cares about making money. So I was kind of like, okay, that sucks. This is kind of lose-lose situation, but anyway, it is what it is. So that was the first bombshell. The second bombshell is about 2 hours ago, I went into the office at Tiger and I was like, wanted to speak to the HR ladies about what I need to do for my admin, logistics, etc., to tie up my loose ends with Tiger before I step out the door. But 2, to have a chat with the matchmakers for BBQ Beatdown and Crew Pet, who's the Muay Thai guy there, head of Muay Thai, really good dude. I asked him about Beatdown and he said all the fights are already booked, the card is full. And no names were put forward for MMA. And I know for a fact that there's at least 2 other guys in the MMA class that I trained with on Monday, yesterday, that were looking for fights and haven't been told anything either. So not sure whether I'm going to be fighting this weekend. I'm still going to be preparing for it regardless. It is what it is. Right now I am 3 days into the water load. I'm supposed to hit 8 litres roughly over the last couple of days. I've only hit about 6 litres. It's actually fucking hard to drink 8 litres of water. And I'm sitting at about 5 at this stage now. So I've got a couple of litres to go. Today, or the last few days, I've been stepping down my carbohydrates. So what happens here is when we're not getting carbohydrates in, that's our body's preferred and primary fuel source. So if it's not getting carbohydrates, then it's going to tap into its own glycogen stores. So previous carbohydrates that have come in have been broken down and then stored as glycogen. And water also binds to this glycogen. So as we deplete or reduce carbohydrate intake, body taps into its own glycogen stores, which also releases water. And I've also, today is my first low sodium day. So 4 days high sodium leading into it, 4 days high sodium, 2 days water load, that overlaps. And then the last 2 days of the water load is the low sodium. So what happens here is as the water fills up the body essentially with the high sodium, and then we reduce the sodium levels along with the manipulation of those other things, the brain goes, there's a fluid imbalance here. So we need to start pushing, there's too much water, there's not enough electrolytes basically. So we need to start pushing some of this water out of the system. So, you know, the last 2 days of the water load, when we reduce the sodium, that's when the weight starts really coming off. So that's where I'm at today. I woke up at 76.9 kilos. That's the lightest I've been probably since I was in Afghanistan as a soldier over there. I wasn't jumping on the scales, but that was probably the last time I was around this vicinity. I normally sit around 80. And then after training, I weighed in at like 75.5 kilos. So my weight is tracking really well. I'll get another probably 2-3 liters in today. Tomorrow's another low sodium day, high water day, and then the following day is going to be low water. I've also started reducing today, tomorrow, and the next day no fibre. So I've started reducing fibre over the last couple of days as well. Now all of these things work in conjunction. I'm following Danny Lennon's weight cutting system, which I'll link in the description below. It's a great resource. I had Danny on my podcast a couple of years ago discussing considerations for weight cutting athletes. So I'll also link that in the description. I will let you guys, I'll continue recording over the week as things play out, and hopefully we can get something together and give you guys a show. Let's go.
It is Friday morning at 6:50. I weighed in at 73.9 kilos this morning, so I'm on my way to the sauna right now to lose the last 1.9 kilos. Should only take one stint in the sauna, I reckon, maybe two, 10 to 15 minute blocks. We'll see how we go. Yesterday morning I weighed in at 75.9, so I actually lost 2 kilos in 24 hours just because of the water flush. So that's something that I'll talk about a little bit after. But first, into the sauna, lose this last 1.9 kilos, and then it is all about rehydration, repletion, replenishment of sodium, electrolytes, glycogen stores, etc. Let's go. This is the third stint in the sauna. First stint was 15 minutes, then I had 5 minutes off, dried myself off, went and sat outside, cooled down in the breeze, then weighed again. First weigh was 73.4. Next weigh, the next stint in the sauna was 10 minutes. Then I just had a 10-minute break. Weighed myself again, sitting at 72.7. So I've got about 400 to 500 grams to go in this last stint. I'm going to sit in the sauna for another 10 minutes, then dry myself off, cool down a little bit, weigh. Even if I'm at 72.2, 72.3, I will keep sweating for the next 10-15 minutes, very light. So I don't need to be weighing in at 72 flat as soon as I get out, because I will keep losing weight. Because if I try and weigh in at 72 flat, what will actually happen is the water will keep coming out and I'll end up being 71.7, 71.6, somewhere there, essentially being more depleted than I need to be. Not good. Let's go. After the last sauna, once I dried off and cooled down, I still had 300 grams to go, 72.3, so I just did one more stint in the sauna for 5 minutes where I fucking cranked it up, got out, dried myself, 72 kilos on weight, baby. Time to rehydrate, time to replenish, time to restock and fucking prepare for battle. Not really, but hopefully.
It is Saturday, almost 6 p.m. This is the time that I would have been heading to Tiger to fight. I've known since Wednesday afternoon that I was not on the fight card, confirmed. I was already going through the process, and I mean, it's always been about the process for me anyway, so I continued with the weight cut and got down to 72 kilos at 9 o'clock. Before 9 o'clock, I think it was about 8:30 or 8 o'clock on Friday, being yesterday. And I've replenished and I'm sitting up at around 77 kilos now. I've got a couple of guys that are looking at getting me onto some cards at some stage in the near future. I've got a rugby tournament coming up in 2 to 3 weeks, 2 weeks time. Phuket Rugby 11, so I'm in great shape for that, and I'm looking forward to getting back on the pitch. I'm going to need to do a little bit of running, some sprint-based work, get the hamstrings fired up going into that tournament, and then potentially there might be a fight like the next weekend or the weekend after. It is what it is. I've really enjoyed this process. It's lit a different fire in me. I've really enjoyed the different elements of training, and you know, having good training partners. It's showed me the value of good coaches, good training partners, and also just having a plan, an overall plan. I mean, this whole thing has been about the 12-week program, but it's about how you fit those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together. So just to recap the entire thing to end up this series before I go into the next series, which will be on how to build the foundation that I'm just about to speak about. So, all right, so the first couple of weeks was all about, I started camp at, I think, 81.4 kilos. And the first block was all about learning boxing and building an aerobic base. So I probably spent about 4 weeks doing that. And then I had a couple of weeks transition to kickboxing, and then did a little bit more anaerobic conditioning based work. I wasn't doing any strength work, I wasn't doing any power work, other than the specific conditioning work. Then I started mixing in around about week 7, I had a full reset week. I ended up playing a touch rugby tournament, took a heap of skin off my knees, so I decided to have the entire week off, rest, reset, recover, and then get back into the swing of things for the last 4 weeks. And then the last 4 weeks was about adding in the grappling and transitioning from striking to grappling, that full MMA experience, and kind of playing around with my style and finding what works for me. Then in the last 2 weeks, it was all about preparation. Well, the last 2 weeks was all about preparation to perform at my best when it was time to shine. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but basically the last week was my test week, right? Really hard training, choosing difficult training partners. Like one MMA session I went to, I did all 5 rounds and I lost every round. And that's kind of what you want to be feeling at that stage. That was 2 weeks out, and then the last week was like I was really sharp and I was fueling my training sessions with high carbohydrates. I was having a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. I was loading up on carbs, on sodium, on fibre, etc., to support that training one, but also to prepare for peak week where we start stepping those things down, start manipulating those variables to bring weight down. So 2 weeks out, I still had 8.6 kilos, no, 8.1 kilos. I'll need to double check my data. It was over 8 kilos that I had to lose in the last 2 weeks. Then the last week I weighed at 76.9, so sitting around about that 77 mark when I started the water load. Once I finished the water load, come out the other side, that was 4 days. Water stayed high for 4 days and then 1 day low. Carbohydrates are stepping down, sodium was stepping down, fiber was stepping down. In that period, my weight got down to 73.9, and then it was all about that acute sweating component, which was done in the sauna. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I did most of this with Danny Lennon's weight cutting system from Sigma Nutrition, laid upon my current understanding and qualification as a nutritional therapist and understanding of nutrition for sports performance from over 10 years in the industry. It's been a really cool process, being, my own coach, my own, obviously the athlete, a beginner in some aspects, and a nutritionist. There was definitely times when, the coach, I had to let that voice win. And there was other times where I had to let the athlete voice win. For example, that last week when I was manipulating carbohydrates and I wanted to bring weight down a little bit before heading into peak week, I decided I was going to run up the hill down the bottom of the hill where I live and then back up every morning. So I did that the first day, got DOMs because I hadn't been doing any of that type of work recently. So the next day I couldn't actually finish the run. Well, I could have, but the athlete voice was like, just get to the top. And the coaching voice was like, well, you could get to the top, but you're actually causing a lot more damage. You've already got damage in the system. Getting to the top is going to cause more damage. It's going to fuck you up even more for tomorrow. So it was kind of cool having to wear both those hats and, you know, make the right decision into which voice I was going to listen to. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this series. In the next series, I'm going to show you, I'm going to share a 4-part series on building the foundation, because at the end of the day, for me to get the most out of this 12-week training camp, I needed to be at a decent level so that I could start this 12-week training camp. Likewise, if I went through this process again, I could go through, you know, only the last 4 weeks because I'm already in a good position. So I don't need to go through the entire camp again. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell to be notified when an episode drops. Next episode is going to be talking about the overview of how you adjust training, nutrition, recovery, periodization of all of those things across the year. Peace.